Have you ever driven by a small restaurant in the middle of nowhere that was completely empty, save for a few glowing fluorescent lights? And maybe you felt a chill creep up your spine. Perhaps it felt like the building was just off somehow, like it was outside of its proper place and time. Living in the American Midwest, I've had this exact experience countless times. However, it wasn't until I actually stopped at one of these restaurants that I finally discovered that this feeling is more than just a meaningless shiver or a tinge of irrational fear. It's a warning from beyond that something is very, very wrong. It happened one chilly autumn night last year. My friend Steve and I were taking a short road trip to Pennsylvania. To save money, we decided to avoid the turnpike and take the back roads. It was meant to be just a fun little road trip to pass the time, and that's exactly what it was. That was until one of my tires suddenly blew out on a small pothole-riddled rural road. "Damn it," Steve shouted. "I don't want to change a tire this late at night. It's too dark and cold. Plus, it's super creepy out here." I nodded in agreement and let out an exasperated sigh. Yeah, these things always seem to happen at the worst time. The car rattled down the road for a bit as we tried to find somewhere to park. The road was small, and unless we pulled into the grass, we'd be blocking the street entirely. "I think I see a place up here," I said, pointing towards the distant glow of blue-tinged fluorescent lights. "Oh yeah," Steve replied, "I see it." After another minute, we were pulling into the dark, abandoned parking lot of a small, empty Pizza Hut. I could feel that familiar chill begin to creep in as I peered through the darkened building's dusty windows. "Weird," Steve said. "What's a Pizza Hut doing all the way out here?" "It's one of the old-style buildings, too." I hadn't noticed at first, but he was right. The building looked straight out of the 90s with its red hut-style roof and white logo on the side. Regardless of how I felt, I still had a tire to change. I parked the car at the far end of the lot, and me and Steve went to work. We grabbed the jack and spare tire from the trunk of my old sedan and began lifting up the car by clumsily turning the jack's crank. "You've done this a few times before, haven't you?" Steve asked. "Yeah," I replied. "I've had more than a few tires blow out on me. I'm always bad at getting new tires in time." "You dumbass," Steve said with a chuckle. "Shut up, stupid idiot." Steve cut me off with a sudden slap on my shoulder. "Dude," he whispered in a hushed but frantic voice. "There's someone watching us." I quickly looked over towards the Pizza Hut and felt my gut suddenly churn. There was a man in an old-timey Italian chef outfit standing just outside the restaurant's front door, complete with a tall white hat. He stroked his curly mustache curiously as he stared out at us. "Oh, hello," he said in a jolly voice, saturated with a cartoonish Italian accent. "How are you doing?" "Fine," I stammered, unsure of how to react in this strange situation. "Why don't you come inside?" he asked, gesturing towards the doors. "I'm making you a pizza." I shook my head to decline his offer, but Steve seemed entranced by the man. He slowly stood up and began walking towards him. "Steve?" I shouted. "Steve, where are you going? Hey!" It was no use. Steve ignored me completely. The Italian chef guy opened the glass door as he approached and, smiling, let him inside. The chef turned to me as he followed Steve into the restaurant and shot me a quick wink over his shoulder. Thunk, the door closed behind the strange man, leaving me all alone in the dark, empty parking lot. What the hell is going on here? I ran up to the Pizza Hut's windows and peered inside, unable to spot any sign of life, just the blue, glowing fluorescent lights from the coolers. What the heck, I thought, frantically, feeling cold sweat begin to cover my brow. This isn't happening. It can't be happening. I took a few deep breaths and thought the situation over. Maybe the man really was just a pizza chef, offering to help a couple travelers in need. That was always possible, right? Right? I decided that I would finish changing the tire and simply wait for Steve to come back. If I didn't see him by the time I was done, then I'd start to panic. Okay then, I thought, it's settled. I went back to work and, after about 10 more minutes, I was finished. I packed the popped tire and jack into the trunk and turned back towards the strange Pizza Hut. I let out an audible gasp as I saw that chef once again standing in front of the glass doors. This time, he was holding a white cardboard pizza box and was gesturing with his free hand for me to come over. "Come, come," he beckoned in that goofy voice of his. "Take a look." As I took a few steps towards him, he slowly opened up the pizza box. Underneath that cardboard lid was the most horrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. It appeared to be a human, crushed up into the shape of a pizza. I could see a fleshy, deformed mouth under bloodshot, bulging eyes, opening and closing as it twitched and let out strange wheezing sounds. I heard it groan. "Steve?" I shouted, backing away from the awful scene in front of me. The chef smiled and let out a loud belly laugh. "I told you," he said, smiling. "I make you a pizza. Oh ho 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 ho." I let out a scream of pure terror as I ran back to my car. Before I could even process what was happening, I was slamming my foot onto the gas pedal and flying out of the parking lot as fast as possible. I sped all the way home without looking back even once. Once I was finally back in my room, I called the police and filed a report. I left out the part about the pizza-shaped Steve because I knew no one would believe me. Eventually, they called me back with an update. There was no Pizza Hut in that location, and there never had been. To this very day, I never heard from Steve ever again. I don't know what happened to him or who that guy in the chef outfit was. However, I do know one thing for certain. I will never, ever stop at an empty Pizza Hut ever again.